Good morning, true collectors. Welcome to the Merry Monday Mailcall Show. It's Monday here in Australia, Monday morning to be precise. It's probably Sunday wherever you are in the world, but welcome to the show. I'm Dave. I'm your host. I'm still only 35 cents. For this one, we have got a Brian Bolland Judge Dredd special. I'm going to be taking through a couple of things that arrived very recently, including a great new art book that I wanted to share with you all. So today is going to be very much Brian Bolland shaped, and you'll get a lot of fun from it, I'm pretty sure. One of the most classic artists in our genre in comic collecting. And if you're not already on the Brian Bolland train, you should be. So welcome to the show, everyone. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Let's see who we have in the chat. We have Brian from in the past. How are you, Brian? It's always a pleasure to see you. Thank you very much for joining. And John, JSS Brooklyn, how are you? Good morning. Welcome to the show. Hopefully you are ready for some Brian Bolland. I got into a bit of trouble with my pronunciation on some of these names. I'm going to have to really get back into it. I did want to call out, I wasn't thinking about this until very, very recently. We are probably about 90 away from 2,000 subscribers. So we will be doing the obligatory giveaway. I haven't worked out what it is yet, but I will have plans for that in the foreseeable. So stay tuned to both the normal TV channels, the normal channel videos, as well as this live. So welcome. And before we get started as well, usual stuff. If you're new to the channel and you've not come across us before, please consider hitting that subscribe button and ringing the notification bell for future videos. Just like this one, we do this every week. We go through books and different collectibles that I've had over the week or weeks. We are going to be doing a special show next week. I will be in London. I'll be doing a bit of a comic hunt in London, so that will be interesting. We'll see how that pans out. I'm picking up a host of different books that have been delivered there as well. So might be some surprises, particularly for members. And talking about our members, we have launched channel memberships. So for $2.99 a month, you can join the other price variant members, get access to live streams, exclusive live streams, and be part of our sketch giveaway, which Brian, incidentally, won last time around. And we have Izzyverse as well, who won the latest one. So we'll be hosting that very soon. But if you haven't already, please consider joining the price variants and support the Hero Initiative. All the proceeds from memberships go to the Hero Initiative. Okay, maybe we will crack open the overhead camera and I'll give you a glimpse of some of this stuff that I've recently picked up. Let's change the camera view and put the camera in the main position. There we go. So as you can see here, what I've pulled together is essentially 3 books that I recently got, as well as the aforementioned art book from the 2000 AD team. So super happy to share this with you. So the first 3 that I wanted to cover off are these Eagle Comics, which is how most of you in the US will have come across Judge Dredd in the first place. This was launched in the 80s. Eagle Comics essentially recreated some of their best tales for Judge Dredd in this title. Ran for around about 30 issues, I think, from the top of my head. Most of these had Brian Bolland covers. So fantastic to see these. As you can see, this first one here has Judge Dredd up against the Russian mega city, the Russian judges from their city. And as I say, this is another one of those classics. Brian Bolland just did these fabulous covers on every single one. And there is some more of those covers in the art book. But I picked this up from Metropolis. This is apparently a 9.6 graded comic book, and you can see it's pretty good condition. But yeah, it's mostly, let me just crack it open and have a look and see what's inside for you. So you get a sense of these. Mostly 2000 AD was a black and white comic magazine in the UK. And this really saw that art recreated with full color as well. So again, great books if you can get hold of them. Really interesting to be able to go back and see these compared to the black and white. The interior is by Brian Bolland as well. And one of the things I love about his art is just how clean it is, and just very, very beautiful. I do have a couple of little oddities to share with you as well, because Brian Bolland did a lot of different art in the 80s, including some advertisements for various different things. So it's always a pleasure to see his work and to see him have so much success with DC, and particularly with those Wonder Woman covers. It's pretty cool that we have a British artist going and crossing the ditch. So it's always a pleasure seeing that happen. Alan Moore, Dave Gibbons, all those classics. We have Christina. Hello, Christina. Always a joy to see you there. Hope you are well. I believe you're going to Heroes, which I did not know. So that's good. We get to catch up in person at some point. So welcome to the stream. And as you can see here, like, you know, Brian Bolland's art is pretty phenomenal. The detail that I think he puts into his work, and he was doing this very early on. So if you look at his early 2000 AD work, very, very detailed, even at the early stage. So it's great. We also have Psychotronic Squirt Gun. Aaron, I love my Eagle Comet reprints. They are, I'm on a tear at the moment. I'm trying to collect them all. So you can see this is why I've gone and picked these up from Metropolis. I agree with you there. Again, especially if you read the originals and then go back and read these, it's sort of nice to see how they color them. It's a little funny seeing it in this smaller format, because 2000 AD was magazine size, so you really don't get you sort of, the detail just becomes ridiculous, and you sort of wonder how. I always used to think artists used to create the art at this size, not on double the size. So that explains a lot as to why a lot of this artwork is so detailed. But it's just great to see these. And as you can see, Brian Bolland art is just phenomenal. I mean, for instance, look at this Lunar Olympics page. Crazy stuff. Puts a heck of a lot of detail in there, and his line work is impeccable. But it's great to see. These are just fabulous. Let's just go through. I think this is earlier in the run as well, in terms of the styling for Judge Dredd's helmet. You can see here. I'm not sure which issue this is actually reprinting, which prog from the original book. I have to go back and check. But again, you get some of these fantastic. This is mostly Brian Bolland work. There's the Judge Dredd face, famous face that isn't actually his face. It's a plastic mask, or he's had his face altered. There's one of the few times where Judge Dredd takes off his mask, where it's not actually revealed to be his face. But this is the precursor to that classic Judge Death issue that you can see there, advertisement. So yeah, happy to get that one. That's issue number 2. Obviously I have issue 1 and issue 3. So slowly but surely building up the collection. I've got another one as well. So this is issue number 5. Let's just crack this one open for you so we can have a closer look at this one. Again, 9.6 from Metropolis. Pick these up. Great. Again, Brian Bolland cover. Welcome to the Cursed Earth. Not Brian Bolland art inside. A little bit of Brian Bolland, because he did some of the Cursed Earth storyline alongside Mick Mahone. First issue. This is all Mick Mahone artwork. You can see here, and again you can see that old styling of Judge Dredd's helmet. So these are the earlier issues of the 2000 AD run. But if you move through the book, we'll find some more. There we go. Some more Brian Bolland art. You can always tell the lines just become so much cleaner, and the detail becomes absolutely ridiculous. So as you can see, fabulous little pickup there. So not sure if I'll get these graded. I think I'll keep them raw. Change the bags, obviously they're a little bit wavy. Always change your bags if you can. It's always good for you to do that. Vincent's here too. Hello, Vincent. Great to see you. Always joining the show, so it's fabulous to have you here. From John, JSS Brooklyn. Dave, was 2008 just published in Australia as well as a member of the Commonwealth or just the UK? So it was. So I was looking at this the other day. A lot of the UK mags had New Zealand and Australian prices on them. So they were distributed here, but they were printed in the UK and shipped across, is my understanding. So they would sort of ship them out over here. Some of my Australian colleagues would be able to give us a bit more of a steer in terms of how widely available they were. But I think they did get the original copies, not these Eagle ones. Well, they probably got these Eagle ones, but the original 2000ADs they would have got first. But yes, they were priced to sell here, so one would assume that they made it to these shores, albeit it's probably a few months later or weeks later. Read a lot of that Cursed Earth. Judge Cal is flipping nuts. Yes, and speaking of Judge Cal, I'm very happy to show Vincent's there. Dead Man comic cover show. Were the Eagle comics new or reprints or a mix of both? They were reprints. Dead Man comic cover show. They were all pretty much reprints with some new material around artist spotlights and things like that. I think for the first 2 or 3 issues, they had a spotlight on Brian Bolland himself. So again, you could read up in terms of the history of Brian Bolland himself. This one is, as I mentioned, part of that Judge Cal storyline, which is modeled on the Roman Emperor Caligula. So he did some crazy things, like making a fish one of the judges, which is always fun to see. This one's tough to get in high grade, as you can imagine, because of that stunningly black cover. But yes, Judge Fish is one of the most interesting covers. And again, the thing that was original for these Judge Dredd Eagle comics was the fact that they were original new covers done by Brian. So that is probably that is the piece that is the original material, is that Brian Bolland did these covers specifically for these books. So you won't see these anywhere else, is my understanding. And you can see this as we come to the art book in a minute. But again, great to see. So you get these editorial pages where they pretty much talk about the actual storyline that you're reading. And then you get to enjoy the story here again. Judge Fish. Salute Deputy Judge Fish. So pretty crazy stuff. As I say, one of the classic storylines, the Judge Cal. Look at that splash there. And again, that would have been in black and white in the UK, but recolored for the US. But always fun to see these. And that's one of the few rare covers that wasn't done by Brian Bolland there. So you see issue 11 doesn't feature a Brian Bolland cover. However, Judge Dredd in the Judge Child Quest #1 does again feature a brand new cover from Brian there. But always good to pick these up. As I say, this one's a 9/4. Does have a couple of non-color breaking spine ticks on it, but I'm looking forward to finishing off. Primarily, I'm going to go with all the Brian Bolland covers for the Judge Dredd run and get that completed. So good to see. Let me see who else we got. Comic Cap Collectibles is here. Hello, welcome. And what else do we have? What else do we have? That's it. I think we're caught up with the chat. Let me turn that off for a second. But I think the reason why most of us are here is this. So I got this as a belated birthday gift. I missed out. There are 2 versions. They normally do an Apex version, which is double-sized, full art size book. Fortunately, I can't track that one down anymore. I think there are only a limited amount made. So this came out last year, and I was sort of on the fence because I was trying to get the Apex edition of this book, but unfortunately wasn't able to, or couldn't find it. So I've settled, well, not settled, but essentially got this as a birthday gift. And as you can see here, it's a massive volume featuring all the work of, most of the work from Brian Bolland's period. Let's just read this on the back. Brian Bolland is widely seen as one of the greatest artists of his generation, working on titles such as Camelot 3000, Batman the Killing Joke. His work on Judge Dredd helped catapult both the series and Bolland in himself to international acclaim. This book contains pages from the Judge Dredd epics, The Cursed Earth, The Day the Law Died, The Judge Child Quest, and Bolland's masterpiece, Judge Death Lives. Also included is a gallery of covers ranging from 2000 AD to the Judge Dredd reprints published by Eagle Comics, which brought Brian the attention of the American readers and shows off Bolland's inventiveness and humour. So let's get to it, shall we? I'm just going to turn this on quickly because I forgot to do it. Just in case we do decide to show, we'll have guests join. But as you can see, it's a pretty impressive book, printed by Rebellion. So they have the rights to 2000 AD and pulled this together. So you get an opening page with the logo itself and the judge badge, alongside that classic panel of Gaze into the Fist of Dredd there. Number of artists. It's very, very well produced book. And it starts with an unused 2000 AD cover prelim, which never got used. Very Brian Bolland, clean lines, and nice to see how his transitions from his original pencil work into the inking. But let's get to the ones proper. So we have Prog 11. So Brian was working on 2000 AD very early in the run, as you can see here with this cover. And what you'll notice is his signature is Bolo in this. So Bolo on both of these. So this is Prog 17 and Prog number 11, featuring the death of the Martian warrior and the Tyrannosaur time machine. Interesting sort of body horror there from him. Always loved these early Judge Dredds, and you can see here, I think actually this is that page that we were just talking about, or one of the issues that we were just talking about in the reprint. So it would have been Prog 41, Prog 57, sorry. But you can see here he's drawing Dredd very differently to how he ended up drawing him. So obviously he changed the style of the helmet. As you can see here, the helmet is very round, whereas in later issues it's very, very different. So really appreciate that. Belzard here as well. Good to see you. And the aforementioned Brian is here as well. Popping up earlier, now popping up during the live. Good to see you, Brian. Hope you are well. So yeah, I mean, again, I just love seeing these and seeing how much, as I say, seeing how much detail goes into those. Again, look at the line work that you get to see, particularly on this panel here. He was very dynamic in terms of the way he drew stuff, and his lines were always impeccable. But it's just great to have this in hand. As I say, I would love the AEST edition, which is twice the size of this, and you get a lot more. It feels like you're actually holding the original art because of the way that they reproduce it. But it's great. A lot of what's interesting is that they overlay the text bubbles in these books. So you can see here the sort of yellowing where they've overlaid it with transparency, so that you get the effect. And I think some of the lettering also sort of really highlights, you can really tell a Brian Bolland story. And you can see here, even by issue 65, he's starting to become more like the Judge Dredd we know in terms of the styling. So you can see the helmet's changed subtly. It's less of that bulbous helmet that you would have seen in early issues of Judge Dredd, and starting to become that more stylized version that Brian likes to draw. And again, this is issue 65, which is one of those issues we just covered off. So again, great to have both the black and white and then the color images alongside each other. We got another panel from another page from Prog 69, the Cursed Earth storyline there. And then what we have here is Prog 77. This is one of those banned issues. So a little bit of background for this is basically, you'll notice here, this is the Jolly Green Giant. The 2000AD team got into a bit of trouble when writing this because they had a whole bunch of mascots. So first of all, they did the Burger Wars, which featured Ronald McDonald and Burger King battling it out. And then they took it 5 issues later, they took it one step further and had these mascots that had been created. And essentially you had the Jolly Green Giant, you had the Michelin Man, all manner of different mascots. And they got into a bit of trouble. So they had to actually pull this from circulation and promise never to reprint it. They've since been able to do that as the laws have changed in the UK. But for the longest time, you could not get these outside of issues, the back issues that you'd have to buy. And they do command a bit of a premium, these 4 titles. I think it's issue 72, 73, 77, and 78. And 77 had this fabulous Brian Bolland cover with the Jolly Green Giant on the front. And in here, you can actually see some of that story. This is from Prog 77. So there you have the Jolly Green Giant, as you mentioned. I am the Jolly Green Giant, and I don't like trespassers on my land. With that as well, you have Colonel Sanders, KFC's Colonel Sanders there. As I say, the aforementioned Michelin Man. You've got a number of different mascots that you can see here. So Prog 77, Prog 78. And they are quite murderous, these mascots. So as you can see here, Michelin Man attacking the judges, Jolly Green Giant attacking, and Colonel Sanders himself is a little bit murderous. So yeah, it's a funny one. If you can ever find this, I'd urge you to grab it. It's a great set of books to add to the mix. And with that little bit of history, I think it really helps. The fact that they weren't available for the longest time, they've been reprinted recently in a trade paperback. So again, if you don't want to get the original issues, you can pick those up. I think it's in the Cursed Earth definitive version. I'll put a link in the chat. I'll put a link in the comments, not in the comments, in the description when we finish the video. So you can have a look and see what you like. Keep going with the panels. Great to see this. At this point as well, he's not putting Bolo on his covers. He's signing them Brian Bolland or just Bolland. But again, you can see here the art is just fabulous. And his covers were always great. I mean, as you can see here, this is another one of the 2000 AD covers. And as you can see, the change in the signature, just purely Bolland there. This is again from the Judge Cal storyline. Great to see a beautiful looking cover like that with the trade dress. But again, always a pleasure to see these. Some interesting stuff. Also as well, Brian did do a lot of sort of humor in this and it captured it quite well. As you can see here from these different Judge Dredd type characters here that he drew. These were stand-ins for Judge Cal. Yeah, so we've got a short, rather muscular one, one skinny one. So it's just, that was what I loved about 2000 AD. It was always a little bit tongue-in-cheek. So you got the seriousness as well as this sort of tongue-in-cheek universe. Camelot 3000 was awesome. Yes, it was. Both of you, I agree. I need to go back and get that. I've got a few issues of Camelot 3000. But again, I think that was his first US work. Correct me if I'm wrong in the chat. I believe so. But yeah, and the same as you, Second Best Bob. I'd love to get all of his Wonder Woman covers. They are pretty. I covered this in a previous show as well. I'd love to know what drove him, because he's prolific with those Wonder Woman covers, and he must have a vested interest or really like the character, because you don't do that many covers unless you really, really love the character. So one is assuming that Brian has a special, Wonder Woman has a special place in his heart. Let's keep going through this. So we got Fergie's here. So that's a pin-up in that instance. And again, you can see the whiteout at the bottom here and at the top. That was used, I think that was used on one of the, yes, Prog 107 Star Scan pinup. They would have used that. Just keep flicking through some of this original art. Some classic images that have been reused. This one in particular, I've seen previously. It's one that you could put to the side of an advert or something. So they reuse a lot of these shots. And I know he did the artwork for some of the role-playing games, and these got reused in those too. Another pin up there, this one in full color. So as you can see, there was some color work that Brian did, and we're coming to that as we go through the book. This is one of those. So this would have been on the back cover of 2000 AD issue Prog 118. We're in 120. Easy the Ferg, yes, Easy the Ferg. I have one Camelot 3000. I forgot which issue. I got it out of a comic book bundle, if I'm reading it correctly. It's one of those books that you can find in dollar bins quite frequently. And you're right, but it is such a great little book, and just beautifully realized as well. As I say, for his first title, I think it's a great one to pick up and check out. This one's a little bit more interesting. So this is Prog 127. So the shading on this one, you can see Brian was messing. This is not your traditional 2000 AD strips. There's a lot more grays here, so it's almost a painted storyline. And again, probably called for it, given the fact that it's sort of like a horror-esque type title. And as you can see, there's a fog which has drifted over the streets, which is how he's tried to recreate this moody look. But interesting that this one is in that very different style, but it's still unmistakably Brian Bolland. Got another cover here from Prog 134. This one's a classic where they won the award by Eagle Awards, the best comic and the top British character, Judge Dredd. Prog 146 cover here without the trade dress. That was another classic cover. And then this beautiful double page spread for the Judge Child story arc. So again, it's great to sort of see all of these pieces in one place. And as I say, I think you can pick this up. I think it's around about $60 from memory. But fantastic little resource if you're really into your Brian Bolland, and especially if you want to sink your teeth into Judge Dredd. We've got Walter the Robot here, poster art. Doesn't list any title. I think this is actually a poster that they manufactured and sold. Walter, for those of you who don't know, was Judge Dredd's trusty sidekick back at home. So he was like a autonomous droid that looked after the house for him. A great distorted cover here from Prog 172. As you can see here, Brian has got, like, at this point, he is the 2000 AD Judge Dredd artist for the most part, most recognizable. And then we have a poster art for Judge Death that was sold. Beautiful. Love to have this. I will try and find one, actually, because that would have been absolutely brilliant to have on your wall. And again, created specifically for that poster, I think based on the splash page that they have. But yeah, that one is fabulous. If you're a fan of Judge Death, try and get that poster. More covers. So this is World Prog 173, and then the Judge Child Part 18, double splash there. Block Wars in Prog 182. This is the cover that's featured on the front of the book. A great Judge Dredd cover there. And the start of the Block Wars. As you can see here, this is the great piece. And then we've got Prog 210 cover. But you cannot miss Prog 224, first appearance of the Dark Judges from from the Judge Death Lives storyline. These characters really did define Judge Dredd, and Brian was front and center in terms of drawing this story arc. As you can see here, then Prog 225 with that fabulous cover featuring Judge Death and all the Dark Judges. So you do get some of the pages from that run. So page 225, page 2 and page 3. Page 3 from Prog 225. Page 4, the reanimation of Judge Death. And then page 6. Then 226, we've got page 4 there. And page 5, again, Judge Death and the Dark Judges wreaking havoc on Mega City 1. 227, page 3 and page 4. And then page 5 and page 6 from 227 as well. And that classic panel of Gaze into the Fist of Dredd. Judge Fear was able to sort of petrify people and simply kill them by opening his mask. So this was the first time that you'd seen someone be able to fight back on that. And Judge Dredd delivers justice to Judge Fear in his own impeccable style. Prog 228, page 3, where they go to Dead World, the home of the Dark Judges. Page 4, page 5, and page 6. And again, just look at that. Yeah, you see inside the mask of Judge Fear with all those eyes staring back at you. And then page 7, the end of the story in Prog 228. Next, we've got a 2000 AD 1981 sci-fi special cover that Brian did. And then Prog 236, that brilliant Block Wars picture there. Full spread cover. So this would have gone back front. So it's great to see that. Another cover in 240 to cover that Blockmania, Block Wars storyline. As I say, worth picking up. And then we have the 1983 annual, which I'm lucky to have. So Brian did the cover art for that one. And as you can see here, you got Rogue Trooper, Strontium Dog, and Judge Dredd in full color as well. So obviously did the paint job on that one. We've got a special edition, the complete special edition, Judge Dredd special edition cover prelim and the finished artwork. And again, as you can see here, he's really now starting to flesh out what he used to look, his Brian's signature style. And that is very much in keeping with the work that he does now for, say, Wonder Woman. Really like Ron Smith on Judge Dredd. Sadly, he's no longer with us. That is, yes, Ron Smith and Brian Bolland were probably my two favorites. Ron Smith used to do strips in, I think it was the Daily Star, which was a newspaper. So Judge Dredd used to have, alongside the comic, used to have strips in the Daily Star. And I think Ron drew most of those. So those are probably the two artists that you would associate the most with Judge Dredd. There are plenty of others. Mick Mahone, as mentioned, Carlos Esquera, who helped create him. But again, for the definitive Judge Dredd fans and the sort of traditional style, it's got to be Brian Bolland, especially if you consider all the covers that he did for the Eagle Comics book. There's the Judge Dredd 1988 mega special cover and the prelim for the 2000th issue of 2000 AD, which I do have in the other room, but I didn't bring it with me today to share with you. But essentially, recreating that awesome classic image. And then we start moving towards more of these pieces of art that he did for different pieces. So this is Judge Dredd by Brian Bolland Apex Edition tip-in sheet art, which if you'd bought the Apex Edition, I think you'd get that. This is that aforementioned, this is the box art for Judge Dredd, the game of crime fighting in Mega City 1, which I do have as well. Just recently picked up a brand new sealed copy of that, so looking forward to picking that up. So my undercopy will be be either given away or traded away. But yeah, this is a fabulous piece of art featuring the Rogues Gallery in the background. You would have seen this on the thumbnail. This is an interesting one. So this is the prelim artwork for the Time Out. So this was originally a cover for Time Out, which is a magazine that essentially tells you all about London. It's essentially you probably have it in the US as well. I think New York has Time Out, where essentially it's a guide to events and venues. And Time Out London ran this cover, and this is obviously the prelim. This was also, and the one I've just ordered, was printed on the Games Workshop magazine White Dwarf, the role-playing game magazine White Dwarf, when they launched the Judge Dredd game. So this was reused. So I've actually picked up a copy of that because it does have an interesting article on the game. So we'll have a copy of that on an original book. But again, you can find it on either the Time Out issue or on White Dwarf 36. But again, you can start to see he's doing much more of these covers. So there's one there for Amazing Heroes. Got another one for Comics Interview. Judge Dredd versus Batman. You can help it happen. And then we're on to the Eagle covers. So this is the prelim artwork for the first issue, which I hadn't seen before. So that's great to see that. And then obviously the actual paste up that we get as well. So great to see how it transitioned the pencil work through to the finished article. So again, he'd drawn the lettering as well as the actual character sketches as well. So great to see that. There's your Judge Dredd monthly issue 3, that classic new image of Judge Death and Judge Anderson. And we got issue 4. Still have to get that one. We've got the aforementioned issue 5, which I do have, which we just looked at. This fabulous Tyrannosaurus Rex attacking Judge Dredd in issue 7. More fun stuff here from this is issue 15 with Judge Dredd eating a whole bunch of different candy. Luckily, they've learnt their lesson in terms of not using copyrighted, essentially brands that are known and creating their own. Then we have issue 17, issue 18 and 19. The Apocalypse War covers, so issue 20, and this iconic issue 21 with Judge Dredd about to get steamrolled by a tank. Issue 22, great cover, this one. Love that. Issue 23. Eagle Comics presents Judge Dredd monthly issue 28 cover featuring Judd Anderson. And we got issue 29, issue 30, fabulous one, that one, with all the mushrooms on that guy's face. This is a bit of a play. So this is issue 34. Judge Dredd's first ever cover featured him attacking a giant gorilla. So one would assume this is a recreation. In the original, Judge Dredd is tiny. So it's about time. This is probably the one that, in hindsight now, if you could go back and recreate it, this would be the cover you'd have with that giant gorilla face and Judge Dredd on his lawgiver, on his lawmaster, sorry. So yeah, this is an interesting comparison compared to that original cover. And then he did a whole bunch of Eagle Comics 2000 AD monthlies covers as well. This is issue 1. And issue 2. So these featured Strontium Dog, DR and Quince, and Judge Dredd. As you can see here, this is issue 4 and issue 5. So I'll probably have to pick those up as well. And then the aforementioned Judge Child Quest that they did as well. So this is issue 2. He also did a whole bunch of new sketches or new work for a lot of these sort of trade paperbacks. So this is the Judge Dredd, The Cursed Earth Book 1 illustration internals. And then we've got a Tharg's Future Shocks. Now, just a bit of background on Future Shocks. These were sort of one-hit stories that they used to put in 2008. They were like a bit of a cross between The Outer Limits or Twilight Zone type stories, sort of one and done. And they'd have a whole bunch of different writers. So Alan Moore cut his teeth on Tharg's Future Shocks. And I think that's where he got his break in terms of 2000 AD. But again, you'd get the odd time where Brian Bolland would do a story. So this is from Prog 52, Solo Flip. I think you get the full story, a 3-page story, which gives you a sense of, how quickly these stories would start and end. Essentially tells the story of a space traveler or astronaut in space, goes mad. It turns out that he's not. He's just in a flight simulator, and they can only last like 10 seconds. And then one of the things that I recently found as well is that he used to do this side strip for Walter the Robot, Judge Dredd's robot servant. And so there's a whole stack of these Walter the Wobot, Friend of Dredd strips that he did as well. These were usually featured on the back cover of 2000 AD. So there's a number of these, just quick, short stories featuring Walter the Robot. And then I think to close us off, they actually have Action 1979 Annual Spinball, page 1. We did the art for. There's another comic title in the UK that didn't last very long, but great to see. Takes a little bit of inspiration from Harlem Heroes, which was another story in 2000 AD early on. But again, great to see early Brian Bolland work there. There is a great cover for, this is the Valiant 1980 Summer Special cover. I think I'll have to pick that one up because it's got a real sort of retro vintage feel to it. So I think I will try and pick that one up alongside the Star-Lord 1981 Annual. Again, another Brian Bolland featuring Strontium Dog and the Robo Hunters. We've got a Revolver Romance special cover and then a Prog 2000 Tharg introduction page. And to close us off, Prog 227, Prog 2270, this Tharg cover here, the editor of 2000 AD. So there you have it. Hopefully you enjoyed that. I very much enjoyed digging through it. I did have a couple of other things I wanted to share with you as well. And I'll bring these up because I dug these out. As I go through some of these UK books, I managed to find some other Brian Bolland art. This is one I wanted to share with you. Let me just bring that into focus. Let's share. There you go. So these, couple of these are, and we'll maybe zoom in a little bit so you can get a better view. There you go. So these were advertisements for Star Wars toys and vehicles. And little known, Brian Bolland did the artwork on these. And these would just pop up in these comic magazines. So I thought that one would be an interesting one to share with you as well. It's a shame they're not featured in the book because these I always found were pretty striking, especially as a Star Wars fan back in my youth. And I used to have this one, this toy, alongside the X-Wing. So it's great to see. So Palatoy was essentially the UK arm of Kenner. And so interesting that Brian Bolland would just draw these brand new advertisements featuring these toys. And what they did have is more of these as well. So you can see here, this is for the Cantina set. And again, Brian Bolland art. And the thing that I really love about this is the way that he's taken the actual image of the action figures and rendered them exactly as that. So you can see here, and Solo very stiff. His legs are just straight. All the other figures, they're all straight with their little their articulation points. But funny to see that. I never had this set, so this one's fascinating. The Cantina set, the Palatoy Droid Factory set, and the Land of the Jawas set as well. All at your Palatoy shop now. And again, Brian Bolland work there that not a lot of people know about, and just featured randomly in some of these UK magazines. So I've been scanning these in as I find them, and probably do an article, probably do something on this at a near future date. But I just wanted to share that with you all because not a lot of people have actually seen these. So yeah, I will probably do a deep dive on these at some point when I get a bigger list. There was a number of them, and not just Star Wars from memory. Brian used to do a heap of this type of stuff. So yeah, hopefully you enjoyed that and the look at the book. And with that, that's probably it for this week. I hope you enjoyed the show. As I say, if you haven't already, please hit that like button on the way out. Let me know what you thought in the comments. It's been very good seeing you all, and I missed a couple of people. John, hello, sir. Good to see you. Welcome. And Belazard, good to see you too. Did I capture everybody in the mix? I think I did. As I say, I hope you had a great show. Hope you enjoyed it. We're coming live from London next week, so stay tuned. I'll have some interesting stuff to share with you, I'm sure. And then back to normal the week or so after that. But with that, hope you have a great rest of your weekends. This has been the Merry Monday Mailcall Show, and we will see you again very, very soon. Take care of yourselves.